What are your earliest memories? Can you remember your teacher's name from your first school, or perhaps the names of your friends from when you were very small? Some things we just can't remember, however hard we try. This week, I've been thinking about stories I was told as a small boy that I remember all these years later. My name is Ian Currey and this is Thinking Out Loud. Come on, let me tell you what I think. Can you remember what was on the shelf behind me last week? We talked about a few of the things there, but this week something has changed and something is missing. Can you see what it is? Before I tell you what it is, did you like the extra dog walking video? That was fun, wasn't it? It's also a clue, because this was on the shelf last time and isn't this time. This is Paintbox. Paintbox has been with me in various forms for well over 50 years, although this is rather a newer version of him. Let me introduce you to my childhood dog. Growing up, there were rather a lot of us, and having a real dog was out of the question. I always wanted one, but it just wasn't possible. And so Paintbox was introduced. Let me tell you how it happened. Long, long ago, when time moved oh so slowly, when the sun shone until bedtime but not a minute passed, when toy dogs were still real playmates, Paintbox and I became friends. At first he was called just Dog, and whenever anybody asked, "What's your dog's name?" I'd say, "Just Dog." With all the repairs and patches, the rough and tumbles, the fun and the games we've had together over the years, there really isn't much left of just Dog. With his floppy ears, his colourful patches, a new tip on his tail, not much at all. And by now you may have noticed that he has different colour eyes, one blue and one brown. But those have always been that way. I don't know when his name, Paintbox, stuck, but that was the name my dad used when he told me stories about what my dog got up to while I was at school. Paintbox, that's who you are? We've explored, we've learned, and we've done all sorts of things together. We've listened to stories, we've been smugglers, sailors, and even policemen together, but mostly we've just played. Paintbox thinks out loud all the time, but you can only hear what he's thinking if you have a very good imagination. Paintbox gets all sorts of things mixed up, but that's just fine. After all, he's just a lovable toy dog, and lovable toy dogs can't be expected to be good at everything. Now, can they? Paintbox lives beside my desk or on a shelf, but he's never far away. He waits patiently for me to come home after flying all over the world. Paintbox always wants to come along too, but usually stays home and does what Paintbox does best. He lays down somewhere comfortable, he puts his big floppy ears over his eyes, his head on his paws, and he goes fast asleep. And that's how all the lovely stories began. Dad would find ways of weaving in things that needed to be known, and a little humour perhaps, and certainly something to think about. Paintbox would discover things that were left laying around, and sometimes he would get the wrong end of the stick when trying to work out what things were and how they worked. I remember many of the stories all these years later. Isn't that strange? Perhaps I'll make another series one day and let Paintbox tell you those stories for himself. But for today, let me give you an example of the sort of thing we'd discovered together. One day, Paintbox found a torch. Here in America, it's called a flashlight, but since Paintbox is an English dog, it's a torch, isn't it? At first, Paintbox thought it was a heavy stick and wanted to play with it and give it a chew, but soon realized he'd seen his master using the torch when there'd been a power cut. All I have to do is press the button and it will shine brightly, he said to nobody in particular. Now, when you're a toy dog, pressing a button can be very difficult. Just when you think you've got it, you remember you haven't got fingers. The only thing you can do is use your nose. There, got it. It clicked, right? But no light. Perhaps I didn't press it hard enough. Paintbox bopped his nose on the button several times, making sure it clicked, but no light shone. Whatever could be the matter? Maybe another button somewhere. He looked and sniffed and looked some more. Nothing. Ah, it must be broken. That's what the problem is? Or perhaps the batteries are flat. Do you see how something so simple drew me in? I'd start thinking about all the things Paintbox would be thinking. Dad, it has to be the bulb, because you put new batteries in just a few days ago, right? Well, maybe it is the bulb, but let's look at the batteries again first. Do you see this sticky stuff on the end of this battery? I remember that from the packaging, but thought it wouldn't matter. Let's see if that makes it better. Dad took off the goop, put the batteries back in the torch, and pressed the button. There, see? It's working now. It was just a dirty connection. That's right, son, and that's a good lesson for us, isn't it? When we do things that upset people and make them grumpy and sad, it's like goop that gets into the connection. All the time that's there, the relationship can't shine. Just like the torch couldn't shine, no matter how many times Paintbox bopped the button with his nose. Paintbox thought to himself, well, that's not fair. I pressed the button. If someone leaves goop on the connection, it's not my fault. And that was a great lesson to learn, wasn't it? It really doesn't matter how the goop got on the battery. All the time it's there, no light will shine, even if Paintbox does everything else right. For the light to be restored, the connection has to be clean. Now I'm sure you can see why Paintbox sits on the shelf and has been seen in almost all the Thinking Out Loud videos. Memories from the past are things that help shape our future, aren't they? Sorting out the good memories and the things that we can learn from is so important, isn't it? But watch out. Do not let these memories escape from your mind as long as you live, and be sure to pass them on to your children and grandchildren. Do you remember what we learned last time? Looking back might be a good thing when we are learning how to face the future. But at the same time, with God, the future can be so much of an adventure, can't it? But forget all that. It is nothing compared to what I am going to do. Life can be so much fun, can't it? No moping around in the past and being an Eeyore. They don't make things like they used to. No, let's see what the future holds and how we can apply the way Jesus taught us to do things. Facing the future then will be exciting. I wonder if Paintbox should get his own series. What do you think? Until next time, goodbye.